Hey everybody, I'm Sarah,
And I'm Erin.
and this is 31 Nights of Scary Shit. Alright, hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about something really exciting to me, because it's local-ish, slash it's a story I grew up with.
Oh, cool.
So it's a fun, scary one, I think. We're going to be talking about the Goatman of Fletchertown Road
Goatman.
and Crybaby Bridge,
Oh.
which I know there's tons of them throughout the country, but we're specifically going to be talking about the one in PG County, in Prince George's County.
Fun. I love a good scary legend. Is that what it
Yeah,
is? Legend?
yeah, like urban legend,
Yeah.
cryptozoologist kind of
Yes.
cryptid situation.
Yes.
Much like Mothman, it's like a regional situation.
Yes.
So
Love it.
there are lots of goat people stories, because like goats obviously are like attributed to the devil. So like
Yes.
it's a easy one to perpetuate, and Crybaby Bridge is also another easy story to perpetuate because
Yeah.
there's always creepy stuff like that going on all over the place. So anyway, I collected a lot of information from a lot of different sources.
Looks like a lot of notes there you got.
Yeah, I went a little crazy into a lot of different theories, but and a lot of different like firsthand accounts and stuff.
Oh, nice.
If you're going to classify them as firsthand accounts, it's up to you. But then a lot of this I've supplemented with my own like stories that have been told from when I was a kid, kind of thing.
Nice.
So I used a Thrillist article. I used an article from the Montgomery Caller, which is classified as local news written by locals. So it's like Montgomery County, by T. Beamer. I used Wikipedia, of course, my, go-to source.
I just burped. I hope that didn't pick up.
I hope it did pick up. I really hope it did.
Excuse me, audience out there.
Don't excuse her. I used a Washingtonian article by Matt Blitz, and a Strange magazine article called Crybaby Bridge by Mark Opsasnik. I don't think he's listening, so hopefully I didn't just offend him by that mispronunciation of his last name, but who really cares? I'm trying my best here, people. Trying my best. So did you ever have stories like this? Like
Yeah.
back home?
Yeah, I don't know that they were region specific, but yeah, I mean, everyone's been told a Goatman story. And there's always those weird bridges where you hear something. Children crying, baby crying. I mean, it's all in our town it was tracks.
Like railroad tracks?
It was railroad tracks, and if you stopped, you would, you'd hear something. A child crying, somebody screaming.
Or like a freight train coming down at you, and then like somebody screaming.
Yeah.
Like some horrible, heinous thing. Yeah.
Or your car inexplicably moves on its own.
Oh, yeah. But you do realize that's like a gravitational anomaly.
I know.
It's like...
I know. It
just has to do with the angle.
Still scary.
I know. It's terrifying because you don't really understand why it's happening. But it just happens. So I thought I would start with Goatman because it's a little bit more of a unique-ish series of theories than Crybaby Bridge, because like you were saying, like there's lots of different stories of like horrible things happening to children.
Yeah. And
for some reason associated to bridges. Well, Goatman, this particular one is a little fine-tuned to the area. So anyway, I'm going to go through a couple of the different origin theories behind it. I mean, the first one is my least favorite because it's kind of boring, which is that he's in the same family as Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
So he's like a mythical beast that roams the earth, which is like kind of boring because then it's just like another cryptid. There's not like an interesting backstory to it.
Right.
But like, I appreciate it for what it is,
Yeah.
Like some sort of missing link or,
Bigfoot terrified me as a child, and I really believed he lived in my woods.
Well, I mean, it is a terrifying story, but then my dad made me watch Harry and the Hendersons, so then I wasn't afraid of Bigfoot. Which, like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, I feel like you should probably have a natural fear of something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
So this next one is, like, a popular one. Like, this is what, like, teenagers perpetuate, which is, like, a goat farmer that realized a group of rowdy teens had killed his entire like village.
Yeah.
Don't know how that happens, a group of rowdy teenagers killing people, but whatever. He went insane and turned into a teen slaying goat monster. So I guess it's like, he
Okay.
was filled with so much rage, he turned into this creature that killed teenagers.
He actually turned into a creature, though.
Yeah. That's the one that was like a very popular
so like
one.
transmogrification kind of deal.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I know. I'm being a little. I know. I'm.
Yeah, you're getting very technical,
I'm
which I appreciate. So that one in particular was perpetuated up until about the 1950s. The one about the goat farmer turning into a teen monster, which was very bizarre. And then around like the 1950s, 1960s, this next one became the popular one, and now this is the one that gets perpetuated because it's the most interesting one of them all. So the theory is that it's a creature that was a product of a science experiment that involved live animals and human DNA that had gone terribly wrong at the Agricultural Research Foundation.
Well, I don't know how it could go right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you never hear of like live animal human DNA experiences ever going the way they were supposed to go, which I don't even know what that way is.
Yeah.
But it never is right. So essentially it goes that the former identity, so that this is another one where he transformed into something else, right? His name was William Lotsford, and he was a laboratory assistant who mysteriously went missing at the USDA agricultural research facility that was there.
Okay.
So he had been experimenting on goats until one experiment backfired and he was mutated, becoming goat-like. And this is where it becomes very bizarre. So, right, it's supposed to be he's some research assistant guy doing this experiment on goats. Something goes terribly wrong, like Spider-Man style. He mutates into a goat. Instead of going down the Spider-Man route of like becoming a superhero, he then begins attacking cars with an axe. And roaming the back roads of Beltsville, which is where the USDA research facility is. So I don't know why one particular type of mutation turns you into a superhero and the other one turns you into a murderous, like, mythical creature. It's very bizarre. And at one point, the USDA was forced to publicly deny accidentally creating it.
Ooh.
Like, in the 70s, I talk about it later, they had to actually put out a statement that they were like, this is not actually real, guys. This is a fake story. Like, this has nothing to do with any kind of, like, animal testing. Because the public was so, like, out of control about it. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. I mean, but you gotta wonder, is it just that the public got out of control, or were they really trying to hide something?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like they're trying to hide something, but not a goat-like creature.
Right.
You know what I mean? I really hope the microphone does not pick up Gus screaming in the other room.
Creatures, but
speaking of goat-like creatures,
cat-like creatures. Oh, there they go.
They're demons. So anyway, those are the theories around how it originated. So I vaguely talked about what it was. It's pretty much a half goat, half human type hybrid situation. It takes pleasure in terrorizing lovers.
Oh,
which
it's
is
always
a fun
lovers.
One. It's always lovers lane situation. This one's an interesting one. Decapitating dogs.
What?
Yeah, it comes back full circle. There's like multiple situations where
decapitating
dogs had their heads removed, and particularly likes chasing teenagers. Again, I think it's just because I don't know, because like they're making out in those like lovers lane situations.
Oh boy.
It has a particular affinity for yelling and squealing and making goat-like noises, which I'm not going to imitate now, but one could imagine. And typically is seen walking alone at night along Fletchertown Road, which if you're from PG County, you would know where that is, but it's like in the Beltsville, Bowie,
we need to go there
area. I know, I really want to go. It's like super fun.
We need to go.
Yeah. And the first recorded media mentions of it are in 1971, but there were like, passed down legends through the kid, like through teenagers before that, but this is when it actually was reported on by the news.
Okay.
And it was there was an article by Karen Hostler in the Prince George's County News, which is affiliated with the Bowie Blade,
Mm-hmm.
which is an interesting coincidence, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um and the article does like a deep dive into all of this Maryland folklore. And then it's followed by an actual news item, like a news article about this family that ended up blaming the decapitation of their dog on the Goatman.
Oh.
So, 1971, there's like a huge resurgence of like looking into like folklore and stuff like that. So, there were a lot of articles coming out and a lot of books coming out, like exploring all these like different legends.
Yeah.
And then this family, I guess, decided to blame it. There's a whole we go into it. There are witness accounts. There's like all this kind of stuff. So this family, the Edwards, were searching for their dog who just, I think it's always good to have the animal's name. The dog's name was Ginger. So
Ginger.
Ginger was missing, and the Edwards were
Mm.
really, really upset. And a few days later, the dog, I don't mean to laugh, that's terrible. The dog Ginger was found off of Fletchertown Road, which is like a few miles away from where they live, without its head,
God.
just on the side of the road.
God. Oh.
And on the night of the disappearance, a bunch of these teenage girls, of course, including April, who was one of the daughters of the Edwards, said that they heard strange noises and saw a large creature like in their yard. And one of the witnesses that night said that it was about 6 feet tall. It walked on 2 feet, and it was completely covered in hair. And that it made a very high pitched sound, like a squeal, like a pig squealing was how they
Yeah.
described it, which is just a horrifying noise when it is just pigs, let alone some sort of mythical creature type thing,
That is
right?
really spooky to
Yeah,
think about.
yeah, it's not something.
You
And
just
then
look out into your yard
and
and
it's just a large hairy creature squealing into the night.
yeah.
Yeah, not fun.
And the fact that it's on two legs,
Yeah.
not four.
And it's interesting because around that time, like before, excuse me, before and after this article came out, there was an increase in sightings of like animal-like creatures that were walking on their hind legs in the area. Which I think is just an interesting fact to put in there, that even before the article, there were people reporting this happening.
It's kind of going back to Mothman too. That Mothman, which was what 1966, 67. Yeah, there were sightings before that too of odd mutated bird like creatures. So you go,
Yeah.
I don't know, something was going on. So
Yeah. And later that year, in 1971, there was a Washington Post article that detailed the legend of Goatman all throughout the country, and specifically talked about this family dog decapitation situation, and oddly enough named these three gentlemen that had actually found the dog's body. So it come to find out that after they had reported this dog was missing, there were a bunch of people that like went out looking for it, and these three guys reported finding the dog's remains, but they weren't related to the family, which is an interesting situation. So anyway, they identify Ray Hayden, John Hayden, and Willie Geen, and these three guys go to tell the story of like how they found the dog, and they give like three different accounts. It's very interesting. It's very bizarre.
huh.
And just an interesting fun fact. They think that the Goatman legend became super popular in the 60s and the 70s because of like the car culture.
Yeah.
Because specifically the Goatman is chasing cars.
Right.
And the reason behind it is because cars gave teens this kind of like freedom to like escape their world. And at the same time of that going on, kids in school are learning about like Greek myths and legends. So like the whole like Pan, like half man, half goat situation. So what they're saying is like it becomes a popular story in teenagers because of that mixture between wanting to like become an adult, freedom kind of thing, and also learning about all these different legends on their own,
Oh.
which is interesting in and of itself. But then in the 1980s, so after there's all these like articles that are coming out about it, there's a bunch of murders that are in the woods by St. Mark the Evangelist School, which is used to be by there, at Crybaby Bridge, which is on the same grounds as the Goatman research facility.
Yeah.
And they're widely believed to be attributed to Goatman, to the murders, because they're unsolved. And that's the only information I could even find out about the murders. There was no other information on there.
So no other suspects.
No other suspects.
No other suspects, and they're comfortable saying
there's no evidence. There's like they identified some of the markings and stuff as like from animals, but that just means that those bodies could have been out there for a while,
right?
But there's no other evidence.
So whether it's Goatman or not, that's still terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrifying
because they're unsolved,
and they're
crimes.
Open and they won't talk about them, which is very odd.
I don't like that.
So when all these murders are going on in the same general area of the Goatman, that takes us to the USDA Agricultural Research Facility off of Lotsford Road, which is where Crybaby Bridge is located. So Lotsford should sound familiar because the laboratory assistant that is thought to have turned into Goatman was William Lotsford. So that road was named for him, his family. Yeah. So Crybaby Bridge, the specific one that we're talking about, is on the USDA Agricultural Research Center, and it's off of Lotsford Road, which is I'm going to go into a lot of description about the road itself because it's very specific where it is. It's a jagged, swerving, one-lane country lane. That's redundant. I can't believe I wrote that twice. It was a tiny little weaving road. It's not like that anymore, obviously, because nothing exists like that. And it's in Mitchellville, Maryland, which is it's sandwiched between a bunch of stuff, but it's just east of the Capitol Beltway, in case you wanted to know. It's 2 miles in length, and it was barely wide enough for one car to travel down. So that's like part of the creepiness of it is that, it was those one-lane bridges where you had to wait.
Yeah. There's lots of roads like that where I grew up still, actually. And yeah, it is terrifying at night.
If you want to know like super specifics, it's the part of Lotsford Road that extended from Landover Road, which is 202, eastwards to Enterprise Road, which is Route 193. So if you ever want to find that specific spot, that's exactly where it is. And it's at approximately the halfway point of the split by the swampy western branch, which is the creek that Crybaby Bridge is over top of. Okay. So it's about halfway down that particular creek where the bridge is. Back in the 40s, the area was referred to as the dumping grounds.
The dumping ground.
Which just sounds ominous. So one can go in only two ways with that. Like people were dumping fridges or people were dumping bodies. Well, they were dumping bodies. So the reason it was called the dumping grounds is because dozens of dead bodies had surfaced there in the 40s on the sides of the roads, in the surrounding forests, and in the actual river itself. So that area was a popular place for people to dump dead bodies. Fun times.
Oh my.
There's always a place like that everywhere, though.
There is.
And usually, it's interesting, it just dawned on me, usually those places where bodies are dumped, there's, some sort of urban legend there that is supposed to keep people out, like the Jersey Devil and the Pine Barrens. Like, it's intentionally supposed to keep people out so that they don't find the bodies. But anyway, the original PG County story originated in the 50s, 60s, and 70s in the northern PG County area, which is where we work. We can say that. And the original story goes that a young woman who had just gotten into a huge argument with her husband, which is never how it's never good when people get in arguments. They had gotten into this argument because their baby wouldn't stop crying.
Oh. Okay.
So if that gives you some context of how messed up the dad is in this situation, Gus does not like that we're doing a podcast. He is screaming. So the baby is in the back seat crying, much like Gus is right
I think
now.
he sees a bug.
And the dad and the mom start screaming at each other. So they pull over on this bridge for some reason, because that's never a good idea to pull
don't
over
pull
on a
over on a
bridge.
bridge.
And
No.
it's described as rickety even then.
No.
Aaron, can you just throw that door closed so that at least we
Yes.
can muffle his screaming?
Goodbye.
So in a like frantic, very quick motion, the dad throws the baby over the bridge. Over the railing, and it falls into the water,
Oh,
right?
God. No.
Instead of like, oh, I don't know, running as far away from him as humanly possible, they drive off together. Essentially leaving their child to drown in the river.
God.
So how it works into the legend itself is that on a starless night, when the light of the moon focused squarely on the bridge, a strong gust of cold wind would sweep the hollow. That's how it's described in this like story. And you can see a crying baby materialize over the bridge. And there's a loud shrieking that echoes through the forest.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. No.
Right?
I don't want to see it, and I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
No.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it.
No.
Okay. Now, I never heard about the floating baby. So that was not ever part of the, like, legend when I was hearing it. I was always hearing the shrieking in the night.
Right.
Oh,
God.
Yeah, right? So a local Marylander named Atkins tells about how he crossed the Crybaby Bridge on a Friday night in 1966. He had a bunch of friends in the back seat of the car, and they could hear a baby crying.
What month in 1966 do you know for sure?
In the spring.
Okay, I was just curious.
Oh, gosh. In the Bowie News, which is based out of Bowie, Maryland, which is in PG County, on Wednesday, December 15th, 1971, there's a number again.
There's that damn date. Wednesday, December 15th. It's when the bridge collapsed in Point Pleasant.
I thought it was December 11th.
No, December 15th.
Great.
Okay, sorry.
There was an article titled Ghostly Graveyards, Moaning Mother Reported, which just is terrible. These two guys, Jeff and Steve Fopma, which is just not the best name. Fopma.
It'd be easy to say that and have it sound like really obscene.
Yeah, right. They were from Lanham. They heard a story about a lady who threw her baby over a bridge on Lotsford Road. And the Fopmas said they had heard that every time there's a full moon, you can see the baby over the bridge. So it's another very similar story that gets reported in 1971.
Don't like it.
Yeah, right. From 1974 to 1984, there are 7 different murder victims that are dumped off of Lotsford Road by the bridge. So again, it goes back to a fun place to dump bodies. And up until the mid 80s, there were upwards of 14 dead bodies that had turned up.
Were they were they all over the place in terms of ages and gender, or was it
basically, yeah?
So there wasn't a pattern.
No, there was no pattern.
So it's just people were murdering people supposedly, and okay, this is convenient because this is that place people don't really want to go, and
that goes back to the murders we talked about with Goatman that happened in the woods around St. Mark the Evangelist. Those were a bunch of murders that people attributed to Goatman because there wasn't really any type of, motive or common thread through them. In 1984, there's a book or like a pamphlet-y booklet kind of thing that's published called Prince George's Bounty, Oral History, Portraits of People and Traditions Collected by Students of Queen Anne's School, which is on Upper Marlborough, in case you wanted to know. This was published in 1984. It's about county folklore, so it's specifically PG County folklore, which is interesting. And there's a story on 2 pages about Crybaby Bridge, and it goes into it in a little bit more specifics about the story. That the car had run out of gas on the bridge. That's why they had to stop. They had argued about the gas. So this kind of goes to one that's a little more modernized and a little less women hating and aggressive dad. And while the husband went for gas, the woman walked around to the front of the car and found her baby's head impaled on the hood.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So
Hi.
this one gets a little bit more gory, a little bit more like
No.
House of a Thousand Corpses creepiness. She ran after her husband, and when the couple returned back to the car, neither baby nor blood was found. So the baby was just gone, and there was no blood to be found at all. And so then later on in the story, they're told that if you drive over the bridge on a cloudy night without any stars, you can hear the baby crying.
All right, let's go do that now.
Right? Exactly.
Let's go do it right